Now, Denmark has temporarily halted the use of the COVID-19 vaccine manufactured by AstraZeneca. That's after reports of a small number of cases of blood clots. Denmark only approved the AstraZeneca vaccine 6 days ago for those above the age of 65. Let's bring in Paul Brennan, who's in London for us for more on this. So, Paul, any reaction from Oxford AstraZeneca to this decision by Denmark to pause the use of its vaccine?
There hasn't been a reaction from AstraZeneca yet. I mean, they said that they're in contact with the Austrian authorities because Austria, too, is stopping using the one particular batch of AstraZeneca jabs, AstraZeneca vaccines, after two incidents there. One was a death from a coagulation disorder, and the other one was an illness from a pulmonary embolism. So these are all sort of vaguely blood clot related things. The Danish situation appears to be born of an abundance of caution because the Danish Health Authority has said that they haven't given any details of exactly how many blood clot cases there have been, and they haven't given any details of the background history of the one person who's died in Denmark. But what they did say was that it was currently not possible to conclude whether there was a link between the vaccine and these deaths. So the health minister said, and I'm quoting, "We are acting early. It needs to be thoroughly investigated." Now, other countries appear to be suspending their use, watching what's happening, waiting for the outcome of that. It is a temporary suspension for 2 weeks. Other countries, Estonia, Lithuania, Luxembourg and Latvia. I'm also hearing that Norway, a line that's just dropping, is that Norway appears to be halting for the time being its use of AstraZeneca. But AstraZeneca issued a statement yesterday actually, saying the safety of its vaccine had been extensively studied and the vaccine was generally well tolerated. And the number of thromboembolic events, as it describes it, is no higher than that seen in the general population. So it remains to be seen as to whether this is sort of super cautious behaviour and action from Denmark and Norway, or whether it actually is something that needs to be more concerned with. There have been millions of these vaccines administered, 22 million in excess here in the UK alone, more than 3 million in the European Union. So to have 2 cases in one country and 2 cases in another with no firm link between the vaccine and those cases does leave a lot of questions still unanswered.
Paul, elsewhere in Europe, France is relaxing restrictions on international travellers.
Yeah, I mean, the French have really had a struggle with coronavirus, and they have been looking at increasing numbers. But they are very keen, of course, with the summer arriving, to try to open up their economy. The other thing, of course, is Germany is also facing the prospect of a third wave. And it's ironic, perhaps, that while other countries are sort of shutting down their vaccination programs, albeit temporarily, Norway, Denmark, Germany is screaming out for more vaccines and trying to get more vaccines into the arms of its citizens. So it is, it's curious. It's a indication, I think, of the not exactly joined up thinking that is taking place across the European continent, across the European Union, with these different countries taking very different approaches in relation to A, reopening, and B, the vaccination programs themselves.
Paul, thank you very much for that. Paul Brennan, live there in London. Well, let's discuss the safety of the AstraZeneca vaccine some more now with Stereo Moisos, who's a molecular virologist and an associate professor in cellular and molecular sciences at Northumbria University. He's joining us from Newcastle in the UK. Thank you very much for being with us. So, as we've heard concerns from Denmark about this AstraZeneca vaccine, an investigation is underway there. Austria has also suspended using one batch of AstraZeneca doses while it investigates a death there from coagulation disorders. First of all, can there be a link between blood clots and a vaccine?
Well, there can be a potential link claimed about anything and everything, right? But the reality about these things is in the absolute numbers. So whilst one cannot be 100% sure that one batch of this vaccine might have something wrong with it, It's entirely possible, just like with aspirin, there might be one batch that something's wrong with it. The reality is we need to see enough of these events in the population to be in larger number than you would normally expect to be able to claim that actually there's a specific direct link between the two. So if you think about the age groups that are prioritized for vaccination right now, these are the elderly people. Generally, these are individuals who have pre-existing conditions, and they're prone to strokes, they're prone to pulmonary embolisms, they're prone to heart attacks. These things will happen.
Right.
So you would need to see that you have much more of this happening amongst those age groups, because these people are getting a vaccine before you could safely say, it seems to be something with the vaccine. So all the governments are doing the correct thing right now, just stopping, checking to make sure everything's okay.
So you don't think they're overreacting, these countries? Norway also announcing now that it's suspending its AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine rollout.
No, I don't think that's an overreaction. I think it's an appropriate response. There's a concern that has been raised. It needs to be looked at carefully, independently, and make sure that those numbers are interpreted accurately for public safety, whether that's protecting people from the virus or protecting people from something that might have happened with this batch of vaccine. But the likelihood in general that the vaccine may have had something untoward is minimal. The likelihood that a batch of the vaccine may have something wrong with it is very small, vanishingly small.
Right. But as you know, there's been concern about the speed at which these vaccines have been developed. What are some of the most serious possible side effects associated to these COVID-19 vaccines, not just the AstraZeneca ones, but the other ones that are also being rolled out right now?
Well, that's the thing. We keep pandering this phrase, these things are being developed too quickly. I would like to flip that coin and point out to everybody how fast we can develop things for diseases we want to do something about. If we put the investment and the time and the resources there, we are able to respond to diseases very quickly. That's how advanced we are scientifically. So on top of that, please understand that all the clinical trials that were necessary were carried out for all these vaccines that you just listed. All the data has been publicly made available, and therefore it is not accurate to say that this was developed fast, that corners were cut. No, there were no corners cut. If anything, all the people that have a role to play in the approval worked hand in hand in the process to make it as fast as possible. So I would like to say to people, you know what, let's try and get society and economy to solve diseases and healthcare problems, looking at this as a paradigm of how we can do things better rather than the other way around. Now, what could possibly go wrong?
Right. Some reassuring words there.
Yes, with regards to what could possibly go wrong, the point is that those studies that were carried out didn't show that there is anything untoward that we need to be worried about, apart from a sore arm, maybe a bit of fever for a few days, which is a sign that your immune system is kicking in and it's doing what it's supposed to do. So I wouldn't be worried too much about these observations. The authorities are doing the right thing to make sure nothing untoward is happening.
So we shouldn't worry too much. Thank you very much, Sergio Mossos, for your reassuring words. Sergio Mossos is a molecular virologist joining us there from the UK. We appreciate your time.
You're very welcome.